Samina is the human rights specialist and then the founding president of PODA, a women rights NGO in Pakistan. Samina holds an MA in International Agriculture and Rural Development from Cornell University, USA. As an international development professional with more than 20 years of experience in managing and leading programs on organizing women and rural communities for collective vision, leadership, and action, Sumina is trying to make a connection between the rural communities and as well as the cities to create a partnership network with the governmental department, civil society, that the rural communities and everyone. She has been organizing that the conferences under that the PODA Foundation, where more than 3,000 people have been participating since 2008 onward. And most recently, she also has spoken to with Cornell University about the COVID impacts and the women's involvement in agriculture sector in Pakistan. And she also received the Human Rights Defender Award from Benazir Bhutto Award for Human Rights Defenders in 2010 from the government of Pakistan. Welcome, Samina. Okay, I will moving to my next panelist is Sophia Hassan. Sophia Hassan is the founder and then the CEO of the Link Things, a technology company building various tech solutions to monitor quality and quantity of water as well as the data analytical. She has developed solutions including auto irrigation, that is a water level sensor unit which has been deployed at river and canals and other tributaries to monitor flow and then the discharge. And at the moment, there are 4 strategic sites in the Indus Basin, especially at the Panjanath and Gudu, where their instruments have been installed and actively working. And she has also developed some of the gadgets on the soil moisture monitoring and everything. By profession, she is an electrical engineer, and she holds a master's degree from University of Michigan. And after working for several years in USA and Europe, she has moved back to Pakistan to serve the country. Welcome, Sophia. So next is that the Dr. Ajman Zadi. Dr. Ajman Zadi did her PhD from George Mason University, Virginia. She's in environmental engineering. She's currently working with the Mehran University USAID Water Center and as a senior research fellow. And her professional experience is in the field of environmental evaluation and water sources and added by the geoinformatics application. She has recently completed one study where she was focusing on integrating the satellite radar altimetry with the hydraulic and hydrological modeling and GIS system. And the whole idea is that one, how the satellite derived estimated data could be used for planning and policy making for managing the water in Indus Basin. Welcome, welcome, Dr. Ajman. Okay, the last is basically the panelist is that the very young and very talented that the leader, Sarvat Sugra. She is the gender and diversity advisor with the GIZ office in Pakistan, working in the development sector. She has been working for more than 11 years and with different organizations, including the Action Aid, and she has a master degree in gender studies from Pakistan and master in social work from UK. GIZ have had a refugee management support program where services are addressing the issue of water scarcity in Balochistan, and she has extensive experience of the Balochistan and working there and then moving from a Gilgit to the Balochistan. So we'll be later on hearing more from Sarvat. Now I will be requesting handing over to Madam Simi Kamal to you for 15 minutes to present a keynote speech. Thank you to you.
Thank you all. It's a real pleasure to be here and to be with all my friends. I know each and every one of you. Sophia is the only new friend I've made, and it's really great to have you here with us. Okay, so is it possible for me to share my screen?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Now, let me see how I do this. I'm not
Below
sure how I'm going to do
below
that.
there is a button that the share screen. If you select that one, that will give you the option.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
All right. But now I have to figure out how I get to my screen so I can show you my presentation. How do I do that?
If you just minimize that one, and then you could select that the windows where you are showing that one.
Okay, I'm not sure I'm able to get to it, but I have already shared my presentation with you, so maybe you guys can show it. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Hey, I've got it. I've got it. You know, we old people, we sometimes take a long time to get used to all these wonderful gadgets. You can see everything now, right?
Yes, if you select on the top enable editing and then go for that the full videos option, that will be good. Thank you.
Okay, here we are.
Perfect.
Okay, you can see this very well now. So I'm going to be talking about women's leadership in the water sector. And I think what's important for all women to understand, and perhaps even for men, is that women are not going to be handed leadership in the water sector on a platter. Okay. And if they are, in the case that we have some ministers in our present government and elsewhere, then they are clueless. And that's just a political decision, and it's no good for us. So leadership has to be established through study, experience, command of subject, substance, hard work, strategy, and a lot of courage. And in addition to that, women have to really wrest leadership by focusing on value, the value we put on water, on the passion we have, on fearlessness, a thick skin. You need a very thick skin because everybody will tell you you're no good, okay? And that this is a man's world, and what are you doing here? An iron fist in a soft glove. And I say a soft glove because, there are many feminine instincts that we should trust. Building sisterhood, that's really important, and building effective, very effective networks. If we want to be leaders in the water sector, this is what we have to do. Now, it's really important to understand what is it that draws women to place value on water and to pursue a career in the water sector. A lot of women that I have met, unlike a lot of men, they have a passion for water. They have a passion for environment, for public health, for climate change. A lot of men that you ask why are they in the water sectors, because they were engineers or because they did civil engineering and it became part of their work. Now, how do women value water? I think in women grabbing the leadership in the water sector, they have to be radically different from the way it is being managed. And the way it is different is because women place value on water. They've been responsible for finding, providing, storing, and managing drinking water, domestic water, and water for sanitation. Okay. This has been at a price of from community entitlements. They know how to make water stretch and go a long way. This is efficiency at the basic level. Women have traditionally interacted with communal environmental entitlements, including the products of nature, fuel, water. These entitlements are understood and adhered to in an environmentally sustainable way. So, if these systems, women take as much water as needed and it is never wasted. So, women know about environmental sustainability. Women know about social equity because they share water and they value it as a social good rather than compete for it as an economic good that produces income. Women are the first to cut back on their consumption of food and water to provide for children and the elderly. That is social equity. In terms of water management, in irrigation, agriculture, and livestock sectors, women do the water management that supports livelihoods, while the domestic uses of water may be given least priority by water planners. Okay, women do not have formal voice, but there is much to be learned from how women actually manage water. So, if you look at the current scenario in terms of women in water governance, because obviously when we talk of leadership, we have to talk of governance. So, they play critical roles in all aspects of water governance, but the experience, insights, and perspectives are not heard or little heard. They're often missing or poorly represented in panels, in decision making bodies, and their ability to be recognized as capable decision maker is very limited. And certainly, we need more women working at all levels in the water sector. Then, with the new sustainable development goals, they have the potential to combine and build synergies to put women squarely in the middle of water development, conservation, management, and the strength and resilience of women can be harnessed to ward off further crises, develop rational use of water, improve water management. That's what leadership is all about. So when we say building on women's experiences, let's take a look at what's been happening in COVID-19, because that has given us a picture of how women can lead. You've already seen that they've proven that wherever they have led countries, the response to COVID-19 has been better. They're capable of implementing SOPs efficiently at different levels. They can and they do share what is available. They are already well trained in establishing and maintaining the hand washing, the hygiene, all the disciplining, and they know how to cope with long haul, patience, persistence, networking. Now, I want to emphasize on building collaborative networks because this support is really crucial if we want not only to develop, but to maintain women's leadership in the water sector. There are lots of women's networks. There are gender and water networks. There are women's rights networks across the world, many levels. I have myself set up several of them. They are outstanding in terms of the passion and commitment. They're not paid. They are mostly voluntary. They are mobilized in dealing with persistent, repetitive, and daily water-related actions, which is what we need if we are to fend off the crisis upon us. They can be further mobilized to manage water use, hygiene, and discipline needed in a post-pandemic world. And we have to look at water in this post-pandemic world. And these networks are mostly voluntary. And because they are voluntary, that's why they're really, really powerful. Here are some of these women and water networks. You can see they are from all different classes, if I may use that term, in society. And here we have so many examples of urban women helping rural women. So this is something that I wanted to share with you in terms of what we can do and how we can build leadership. Okay, now I have to get to another PowerPoint. I'll do that in a second. Okay. So for those of you who feel that it's hard to be a leader in the water sector, and you will say, well, you know, we have been pushed back and we have tried, and everyone tells you there are no leaders in the water sector. Okay, in our own country, Mohsen just gave an example. All these, the national water policy, and now the Sindh water policy, and the Punjab and another province has already been done. There were no women involved. There are several of us around here. We were never asked, or we were asked very marginally, because the idea is that we are told there are no women in this sector. Well, here are some of the women, and I want you to know them and be proud of them. And so next time you are told, where are these women leaders? You can tell them. Look at the political sector. Look at all these ministers of infrastructure, of water management, of environment, climate change. Even we have Zartaj Gul. I know Zartaj well. She's still learning, but never mind. There is still someone there. Okay.
Maybe if you could go for the presentation modes for full screen. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, because I can see it fully on mine. Let me do it over here. Is that better?
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Okay. So here they are. These are all ministers, and they are in all kinds of countries, in Africa, in the Middle East, in Europe. Then when we look at women and water utilities, they are there as well. They are CEOs, they are deputy CEOs, they are chief executives. They are there, know them. Okay. Then when we look at women in science and technology, Professor Malin Falkenmark, she is the person who gave water all its colors: green water, blue water, gray water, brown water. That's her. She's still there. She's 90 plus. Okay. My friend Mariette Verhoff Cohen, who runs the International Women and Water Partnership. Then here are Dr. Jackie, who won the Stockholm Water Prize recently. And Sunita. Samina, you have to, okay, we can hear you talking to your people in your house. And here we are in the International Water Management Institute. Okay, look at the Global Water Partnership. These two ladies, they are absolutely wonderful in terms of what they have been able to achieve. Here are other members in the Global Water Partnership, which, by the way, is the largest stakeholder group in water. And several countries were part of its original formation, Pakistan being one of them. Here you are, see them. Okay, this is a technical committee, and you see all these very bright women from all over the world. Here at the World Bank, there are these women leading the water charge, so to say. Here they are at the African Development Bank, at the Asian Development Bank. There are women who have won prizes, important prizes in the water sector. Akisa is a very close friend. Okay. So is Kusum. Kusum and I have worked together for decades now. And of course, don't forget Greta. Greta Thunberg, is showing what the children of the world, that they understand a lot more than we do, and they are tackling and they are taking on the military industrial complex. We have a lot to learn from these young people. Then in Pakistan, just look around you. Perhaps you don't know them because very few people will talk about them. But these are established women. And if you see their CVs, you will be amazed and you'll ask the question, why are they not on all these committees? Okay. Here are some of you are here. There's Arjuman. And here is a burgeoning group of young water specialists from all over Pakistan. We recently met at a university that has the word water in it. I don't know how many of you know about it, but it's the Lesbela University of Agriculture, Water, and Marine Sciences. That's where we met. So this should hopefully give you a lot to think about and to understand that yes, leadership in the water sector is tough, but it's not impossible. So many women have done that. And now what we have to do is to push them and ensure that they get their voices heard. So a few weeks ago, when we were told, a few months ago perhaps, that there were no women in SIM's formulation of its provincial water policy, and we got in touch with them, they said there are no women. We couldn't find any. So we started a campaign. And this is a campaign to recognize women champions of water. And we've already got 30, and we are mostly from Sindh, and we are going to continue till we have 200. And listeners, many of you need to be on it. And then when we have this group of 200 professional, working women, educated, committed, then we can really make a difference here. And if we can make a difference in Pakistan, we have counterpart movements in all South Asian countries and elsewhere. So we can then try to change the world. One country at a time, one province at a time, one woman leader at a time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simi, for sharing that the insight about giving some practical example and saying it what could be done, and then also sharing that the global water leaders, especially where the women are leading, and talking about some of the insights. Highly appreciate that one, and I am also thankful to you for delivering the keynote speech in exactly in 15 minutes. That's good. Thank you. Now we'll be moving to the first round of the panelist question. There will be two rounds of the panelist question, and each panelist will be ask a particular question. So I will be turning my mobile phone that the clock on. So there will be specifically 3 minutes. When there will be 30 seconds, I will be just telling that person that, okay, that 30 seconds remaining. So in that way, we will have make sure that there is a 2 round of questions are happening. And at the end, we have a 30 minutes for the question and answering. Lavisha, I know that you have already asked a question. We'll address that question. The first question, once we'll go to the question and answering session. So first is to Samina, to you. You have experience, you have extensive work on women rights and especially work with the rural communities and women farmers. Please tell us briefly about the gender issues related to the irrigation and agriculture, especially issues of women farmers in the context of COVID-19 in Pakistan. Please unmute yourself, Samina.
I'm still learning to mute and unmute. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here with all of you. I would like to pick up where Simi left, and I would like to pose a question to all of us. Why is it that women are not included in water management processes in our country? And I'll limit myself to Pakistan. I think we need to question that, and perhaps we need to go back to the roots. When would such an interest develop in a young girl, that she would become interested in water and she'd become interested in studying about water, and when she's deciding what to study, she knows what is hydrology and what is engineering, and does she have access to STEM education, science, technology, math, engineering, math. So I think that these are also questions that we should include in our discussions, particularly when we work in rural areas. As you have heard, that I work primarily with women in rural areas, and what we see is that women work on the land with the water, but they're denied knowledge about it. And that's very important to inculcate an interest in water. So women deal with the water all the time. Very young girls, 5 years, 6 years old, are carrying, buckets and drums of water on their head. So they deal with water as early as girls, because they're helping the mothers with the water in the rural area. They're fetching the water. Even in school, you see the older sister is carrying the water bottle for the younger siblings. So women have the responsibility of water at the household level, in the community level, but they are not included in the water discussion. So I have personally learned a lot from Simi, her commitment towards including women in the water. So in rural areas, one of the things I'd like to highlight is that it is also a place where a lot of disputes take place. And dispute take place on water, both at communal level, that includes economic classes. The rich would have the better access to water. Their well is bigger. They have a tube well. The poor have less access to water. Also, women spend a lot of time in cleaning the water, making
Samina,
it.
Sorry, 20 seconds remaining, a 30-second maximum.
Okay.
Thank you.
And lastly, we have seen in Pakistan that there's also clash on water on the religious ground. You all heard the case of Asya Bibi, the Christian woman who was accused of blasphemy. The dispute started at a water. There was a water source where all the villagers used to go and get water, and she, as a Christian woman, was not allowed to fetch water from the same well. And this dispute takes place in many, many villages where there is well for Muslim community, but may not be a well for the Christian community. So water is very deeply part of our social, economic, civil life, and we need to understand its complications to find the solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Amina, really highlighting that one, some of the critical challenges which we are facing at the rural side. Now I'll be moving to my next panelist, Sophia Hassan. Sophia, since all our women leaders have gone against the wind to work in the field that are typically considered men, let's say the irrigation is a typical sector considered for men, what constraint did you face in working in the field of automation of irrigation system? Was it an easy journey? You faced challenges being women? What do you do to overcome these challenges? You have 3 minutes.
So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on this distinguished panel. I'm an odd one out, as you have also put that in your introduction, that I have an electrical engineering background, and I have been working in various sectors, IT sectors and telecom and financial services, in various roles. And I think that the challenges are same in each and every role. When women try to enter in area which is male dominated, they're the odd one out in that space. And I think the same thing happens in irrigation or other water areas which are traditionally dominated by men who function differently. Their networking spaces are different, their ways of working are different, their processes that they follow are different, their value system is kind of different than the women who come with passion, as Simi said, or with some soft skills to work in that area. So there are challenge. All of us face challenge when we work. We step out of the house, I think. But I must tell the new aspiring ones that we have examples of likes of Simi, which have been working for 40 years in this area, or there are other women who are working in traditional space, I would say, like healthcare, education, banking sector, so for the last 40, 50 years, and they have been working quietly. So I think we need to also look at that, their contribution, women have been contributing, but maybe their contribution hasn't been recognized. And that is one of the biggest challenges that I think we all have to highlight. And I know that there is a second question on this one as well, that, the contribution of women has been, and it continues to come. I think now we see the positive things are that a lot of more women are coming, and we have to now look at how we can change the rules of the game and be seen more prominently and assert more and be more visible. So I would say that, coming back to the irrigation aspect of it, I got the opportunity to look at how we can automate data acquisition from various systems like canals or rivers or barrages. And I think the way the network has been set up between men and different organizations, that is a bit difficult to crack. And I think the first challenge is always that, you need to be accepted there. So, when you walk in, like I walked in with Dr. Arjuman at Sakha Barrage, when we went there, I think they were, it was an overwhelming experience for them as well, that there are two women who have come and trying to automate water. So, like, bringing technology there as a woman was itself quite an experience. Like, you have to be patient, you have to, answer their questions, you have to kind of, you have to address their apprehensions as well. Like, their trust first, like,
Sophia, 20 seconds.
Then the trust, in building the trust, not just in yourself, in the technology. So these are the challenges that we face. And I think but the biggest one is that there are intertwined networks which exclude women. And I think that needs to be addressed at some point.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing some of the insight about that one, about your journey, and especially what are the challenges you're facing. Thank you. Now we're moving to my next panelist, Dr. Arjuman Zaidi. Arjuman, you are working in the geoinformatics, especially on irrigation and use of satellite for the real-time for the flow monitoring. And what inspired you to this field of search that is considered non-conventional for the woman? What challenge did you face in pursuing this career, and what kept you working? Thank you.
Thank you, Mohsen. First of all, I would like to talk about my journey. I started my career as a civil engineer in 90s, then opted one of the emerging fields of that time, environmental engineering, in pursuing my higher studies. I did both my master's and PhD in that field. And there I got, being in US, I got an exposure to work with Fairfax County Water Authority and the water section of the Louis Berger Group. And while working with the Louis Berger Group, the idea of my thesis topic took a shape, and my thesis was based on a practice-oriented research in which I evaluated the economics of the USA-based non-point source pollutants total maximum daily load program of the Clean Water Act. And after that, I decided to come back to Pakistan. And there's one interesting thing, that for next 5 months, I didn't get any job. So then my first job in Pakistan was in a firm that was involved in environmental audits and implementing environmental management systems in textile and leather processing industries. There I got very good industry-based stories for my students to tell later on. Later I joined academia, and since then I'm teaching and mentoring young minds and keeping myself young, being around them. So as you asked about the challenges, as far as challenges are concerned, life is itself a challenge, I would say. Challenges are everywhere in all fields. And for women, sometimes these challenges are more intense. And we have to put extra efforts, whether it's our professional life or it's our home front. And professional women, they have extra burden of proving themselves and balancing their roles as homemakers and working women. But I believe that women are born with capacities to face challenges with courage. And for me, every woman is a strong woman. So that's, I would say. And I have some messages for my young colleagues as well. And this is that they should live an impactful life, especially women colleagues. And by this, I don't mean impact factor publications. I mean, it means that how you impact the lives of the people around you. And especially when you are a woman, so you think about other women around you. And there are a lot of women you can see, like if I can see, I have a lot of my students my girl students, and they are doing wonders these days. And for me, my impact factor relies on that, the success of those women students of mine. So it means that how you impact the lives of the people around you, and this is more important than having a list of impact factor publications which are not at all beneficial for the society or humanity. And I think we need a philosophical shift in our research as well, by infusing humanism in technical and scientific interventions, by studying culture and social sciences. And this is the time that the impact of research and the intervention by the women should be felt in Pakistan. And as I have said earlier, that challenges are everywhere. We cannot bypass them. Actually we need to be clear about our goals in life, and we
Thanks.
should focus on them, and we should be setting our priorities. And more important is to start a journey. You will find great chances and limitless opportunities in your way. Only you
Thanks,
need to
Dr. Arjuman. We are just almost 4 minutes, so just 20 seconds.
Okay, I would end on one share, if you allow me to.
Yeah.
So it's for my young colleagues. Safar hai shirt musafir nawaz bo tere hazar ha shajare sayadar rahme. They just keep on going.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing some of the tips, especially that the impactful wherever you're working and how you could make an impactful on the life of the people and then working in the community. Thank you very much. Now we're moving toward the next is the panelist is Sarvaj Sugra, who is the very young leader and working at GIZ. Sarvaj, you are from Gilgit-Baltistan, the land which is full of the water, mountain and glacier, and presently you are working as a part of the GIZ in Balochistan. Could you please share your part to the big bilateral agency? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. So yeah, it's a very interesting question actually. So I would like to be, I'll try to be concise and effective as much as it's possible. So your first question is like coming from Gilgit-Baltistan, the land of water, and how I have initiated this journey towards a bilateral aid agency where I am right now. So to just give you a bit of background, just when I talk about when I see or when I remember my childhood, it reminds me of water all over around me. It could be a water spring, it could be a natural fountain, it could be melting ice water coming from the giant Karakoram mountain, as you know, and of course the ferocious river Indus, which connects us from there to Sindh. So that is one connection I always figure out. Life also could be very simple on the mountains, as you know. However, even then, yet it is very rich in many ways, as you know. So raising into such surrounding actually made me enormously environmental conscious. So that is what helped me a lot to understand how environment works. And also it improved my understanding towards life and how life is connected to each other. For example, if we say a healthcare and we talk about women's rights, we talk about human rights, then my understanding improved there to see all this around me, that these are not separate from each other. So these are very much interlinked with the health of the environment and the health of ecological system that is actually supporting the life of all of us. So that really helped me in understanding closer the life events and of course life itself. When you talk about the bilateral agency, how my path have been and why did I chose it, I really feel that it was for me when I started started working actually and started my profession. I realized it was a very powerful realization, I would say, that I am able to engage with life. As I said, we are all interconnected with life. So that was the strongest realization where I felt that I'm engaged. I have the ability to engage with life, either it is socially, either it is intellectually, either it is philosophically, as Arjuman has said. we need to understand all of it. So that was important realization for me, and that has been, I think, the proper impetus for me to embark on where I am right now. So this field where I work, I would say that it has given me more bigger horizon.
30 seconds. Thank you.
Okay, right. So yeah, I think I would just be more concise on that, and I would just say that it has given me, that the work I'm doing has given me a bigger horizon to understand and improved my interpretation to life, and that actually enables me to build a powerful narratives towards the aspect I work into, and the ability to impact change. That is what we talk. So that is very, very concise and briefly the answer to your question.
Thank you, Sarvaj, in sharing that insight about your journey and then some of the challenges. Thank you very much. Now we'll be moving to our keynote speaker, Simi Kumar. Simi, question to you is, you are working on water issues in Pakistan for 4 decades. How do you see the situation at policy level? Is there any will at the policy level or political level to acknowledge the role and importance of women in the water sector and ensure that women are well represented at the highest policy level? And Simi, I will be requesting if you could be very brief on the 2.5 minutes, because considering that the time of other people. Thank you.
No, I've already addressed some of that when I spoke earlier. If you want to know, has there been any changes in these 4 decades? A big no. Okay, there are sometimes, let's say, a few steps forward, and then we take 10 steps backwards. So whether it is at the national level, whether it's the provincial levels, and right down to the grassroots level, the idea seems to be, okay, if women insist and they barge in, then let them be the scribes, let them write down, let them do the drafting, let them do the donkey work. Okay, everyone is happy with that. But there is in our very patriarchal and very misogynist society, this is something, we can't blame just the water engineers for. This is how society looks at women. Even though we produce Benazir Bhutto, we have produced, women who have made a difference at the UN. We had Nafis Sadiq leading UNFPA. We have had these really outstanding women, but the overall impression is that yes, there are some of them are there, and they were there because of their male connections, although even that is not true. Okay, these are the impressions that people work with. So in order to breach that is going to be difficult. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Simi, and I fully agree you that there is need of paradigm shift, of change of mindset, which is important. Unless the mindset is changed, nothing would happen. Thank you very much. Now we're moving toward the second round of the panelist question, and for the people who are posing the questions, I will be saying thank you very much. Please continue posing the question, and in 15 minutes time, we'll come back to you, and you will have a 30 minutes to ask the question. Okay, so Samina, to you first one. As we see women leaders are at higher level, like you and other respected panelists, there are stories of resilience and perseverance of women leaders at the community level as well as at the public level. Please share such a story with us. Also, how you celebrate the women at the grassroots level, especially with the rural community. Thank you. It's again 2.5 minutes to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I have a very specific story from Chakwal, where, as you know, it's an arid agriculture area, rain-fed area. So water is a serious access issue, both for drinking and for agriculture. So there is a big oil factory of OGDC in the area that we work from, and Simi also went to that village. So the big oil factory is taking the oil from the area, but not doing any corporate social responsibility work. So once we found out that, we mobilized the community, and I took a delegation of women from the neighborhood to the oil factory. And of course, they wouldn't allow us in the factory because the factory is 100% male staff. And they said, "Aap log kyun aaye hain? Kya kar rahe? Bibiyan da ithe ki kam hai?" So we said, we want to talk to the manager. We want to talk about it, the social, corporate social responsibility funding. anyway, after many letters to the head office in Islamabad, etc., we finally got the meeting with the manager of the oil factory in the village, Rajya oil field. And I mean, they were shocked. They just didn't know what to do with the 25 women who just came and sat there. And we said that, you know, we want, and we started our conversation by saying, where do you get your water from? Because it's a huge operation. There are hundreds of people working. And they said, oh, we have arranged water for ourselves. We have dug holes and all that, you know, not holes, you know what I mean. We have gone into the land to get the water. So we said, well, can you give us some of that water? Because we have very serious drinking water problem. And they all laughed, but really the woman insisted and said, we are here to ask you not for the oil, but for the water. Give us the water. We want drinking water. So the management then took our application, and they didn't give us the supply water from their own supply, but they started sending a water tanker to the village. And now every day, 2 water tankers come from the oil factory to the village, and it gives water to all the households. Again, women are lined up with buckets and thermos and whatnot to collect the water every day. It still happens. You're welcome to come and see it. Now they're doing it twice a day, morning and afternoon. And also we have a MOU signed with the oil factory that every 6 months, they check the quality of the water to make sure that it's safe for drinking. So that's a real success story that has happened not far from Islamabad.
Thank you very much for really sharing that insight, and then how the the woman influencer, the group has changed everything. At least the things have moving towards the positive one. Thank you very much. Now moving to my next panelist is Sophia. What role women leaders like you can play in mentoring young women in the field of science, technology, engineering, and the mathematics? Thank you.
So I think, as you said, that, you know, what role we can play, we can actually be mentors to these and be there. I think it's very important to keep your visibility out there for the women to realize that there have been role models who have been working, and also highlight women who have been working for decades in this area or in the STEM field itself, in all areas of STEM field. And I think what's more important than educating women or mentoring women is also mentoring men, young men who enter the area to be more acceptable to women, and treating new and old women at par, and accepting their views, incorporating their views in decision making, in day-to-day lives and all that. So I think the onus, I think now is more on men in accepting women in workforce, and we see that, like, you know, it's not that 10% of the workforce is women. It's about now 30-40% of the workforce is women. In I'm excluding rural here or that, but in urban spaces, in banking, in tradition, you know, all these male dominated, women are entering, and we see that the new young women are not accepting the norms, and they are challenging it, and they are very vocal about it, and they get these opportunities. So I strongly support, you know, Aurat March kind of events, which actually bring out the, you know, how women would like to change the world, how not just at home, but at work, in society, and contribute positively. So I think we need to focus more on changing the mindset of men, mentoring men, more than mentoring women, and making them accept us, or accept new women who are coming in this area.
Thank you, Sophia. Just highlighting that some of the mentoring ways, and then especially that how the young future, the young women could inspire, and basically working on in the STEM area. That's really useful. Thank you. Moving to the next is Dr. Ajmal Zaidi. How do you see the role of young women scientists and researchers in the field of geospatial technology, especially applications for irrigation and water management? What is your message for the young women water professionals working in Pakistan? Thank you.
Thank you, Mohsin. As a teacher, I have many success stories of like emerging young professionals, women professionals around me. I still remember some of my students who were when like we were arranging some field visits, and one of them, she was quite like worried, and she asked me that can I accompany my father with me? And I said, okay, that's fine. I'll be more relaxed if you have your father with you. And later on, she was the one who was like arranging all the field related activities where we are going to stay. What would be the transportation arrangement for to reach at the field and communication. So they are like I would say that there like so much potential around us. Only one thing is that we need to give them some confidence, some courage, and we only let them realize then they can do it. So that's the only thing which like I did. And then they were I will let you know that they make my job, they made my job easier. That later on they are my all my girl student, and maybe my male student will feel offended, but that's my experience that all my female students are more reliable in working. They have grit in them. They might not be very intelligent as they're like me. Sometimes I have like some very intelligent students, but if they're not like reliable, they don't have, I can't trust on them. So I would say that I have some very good success stories around me, and these are the role models for my new generation, my new students. When they come, I just give the examples of those students. I tell them that these are the students. And uh, another story that one of my the same girl, when she was first sitting in the aeroplane, she was going to Germany. I mean, with like the language is so nobody knows the language, and it was so difficult for her, and she had to travel to some county. I mean, it was not at the main city, but she managed it. And then she, I think, travel around the world. So there are stories, so many stories which we can share, which we can give to our young generations. One point I would like to make, that when during my field visits, I always we found very cooperative and very friendly environment. And if I compare it with the workplace, sometimes people might not understand that if they are abusing or they are exploiting women or not. Our male colleagues, I'm sorry, but I would say they are ridiculing or they are making fun of women, or they are like some uh, they are they are telling some jokes about their wives or something. We don't like this. I mean, it is sometimes very annoying. I still remember that I was attending a conference in Quetta. It was on water, and the president asked that if we can't see any woman around. I was the only one in that the whole in the whole hall. So the people, one person, he like cracked the joke that they would be wasting water by sitting in their homes, and everybody started laughing. And I still remember that the president, he literally shouted and he said that this is very disrespect of your family women, your mothers, your daughters, and you should respect them. And you know who was that? He was Dr. Tarif Binori. But this is very unfortunate condition that we don't like appreciate those people. We tag them as anti-Pakistan and incompetent. So we need such people around us. So that's.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank Dr. Arjun, really sharing that some of the insight at the university, and then how these the young leaders could be when they are going into the field and successfully managing the field campaigns and everything. Those are really useful insight. We could spend a lot more time on that one, hearing that one, the good example, which are really useful, but I just start looking at the time, move to the next one is Sarvat, question to you. In your view, what should young Pakistani women do to put their stamp on the water, environment and climate change sector?
Thank you for the question. It's a very interesting question. I wish I had a very quick fix answer to that. However, it is as complicated as I think life itself is. So as I mentioned before, I would just would like to link that from what I have said before, actually. So the understanding, I would say the understanding that our well-being, our success, and our existence is not independent from the rest of the world. and it is all interlinked. That we need to understand, first of all, as a Pakistani woman, and as our actions impacts the society that we know very well. What happens in the society also impacts us back as an individual. So we need to understand that what we put in the society will come back to us. So the water situation, I don't need to really talk a lot about that, because we all know that is already really precarious and being aggravated by the climate change, increasing population, as well as, if I may say, the influx of refugees has also, the situation has impacted because of these issues. So the problem can be managed if only we strive for the highest possible level of water efficiency, which can only be achieved with the active participation of people. That is what I strongly believe, because we need to be aware of. That is what I said. We need to understand the situation, and then comes the awareness. If we are aware and we are active in participating for making the water efficient community, then it could be possible. Public awareness, as I said, of water scarcity and encourage water conservation. But how could we do that? That could be the solution. But then comes the sustainable alternatives we talk about. What we talk about is like, what could be the alternative to do those things? So we need to dig into and we need to find the situation where we could bring out a sustainable alternative and a behavioral change. As I said, when communities are involved, they are aware, and the behavioral changes could be seen as a result. Women, particularly, especially Pakistani women, given their natural talent and awareness, I would say they could create significant impact in improving human development, because women are the nurturers, and they know and they better understand maybe the environmental changes and things which is going around them much in a better context, because they are connected to it much more than I think anybody else. So I would think that they could impact more significantly in improving the human development. Then comes the question, actually, that what awareness actually women have when I talk about awareness of women. So if we go to a very basic idea or information, we as a women or as a member or as an individual of the community we have. So we know, first of all, what is the landmass of Pakistan, right? So this is very basic information. We have what is the population of Pakistan, and then how many people is inhabiting that small land mass on the planet. We need to then figure out that thing. Then the population, and then we need then the question comes, if we know the landmass of Pakistan, if we know the population, then the question comes, then what is the basic needs and requirement for these people to survive? And that is very, very easy. And that is water, that is food, and that is air. Like before comes this roti and makan. These things are very, very important. So specifically talking about water, then what are the main water related issues we have in Pakistan and what we are facing? So this is why I'm saying that women understand much more better about the water issues in Pakistan, because they are dealing every day with these water issues which they are facing. For example, clean water and toilet for everyone, I guess. And also,
Sarvat,
and
30 seconds. 30 seconds. Okay. Just looking at the time. Thank you.
Thank you. And the water, this is why I would say that the water issue, as it has a greater impact on women. So women should be connected to this cause. Women, as mentioned before, women walks for miles and hours to fetch water. So then water should, why this is impossible, that water should be closer to their homes and schools, because it is also impacting the education of girls, because they're going to fetch water and their time is gone for the school. The school dropouts are really increasing because of that. So the missing infrastructure of toilet leads to poor hygiene, open defecation, which is very usual in maybe areas where water is not available, which leads to killing millions of children every year out of diarrhea. Women use darkness as a cover to go to toilets outside, and then they run the risk to be raped. So these are the basic problems which we need to deal. So let's strive for a better life to become the reality. So yeah, that should be our goal. Thank you.
Thank you for highlighting that the awareness need, and then how we could work with the society, and then make sure that women's role will be important, whether the clean water or for the drinking water, for wash, or for any other purpose. Thank you. Now I'll be moving to my last question to that the Semi Kamal before we'll open that the question for audience. You have a vast experience of work not only in Pakistan but other countries as well as. Is the situation in other South Asian countries any different from Pakistan? What are the best practices that we can adopt to make the women professional, water professional visible, recognized at the government level as well as at the society level? Thank you.
Well, the situation in other countries in South Asia is pretty similar. Okay. There may be, in all countries, we have instances where bright sparks have made a difference for a short while in a place or in a district or in a high impact program. Yes, we have all those examples. And there are also many examples where women's movement, not necessarily only in the water sector, but in related sectors, have made a difference. Like the Chipko movement. In India, we have the Women Power Connect group, which is a grouping of women's organizations that work together. In Pakistan, we have examples of our own women's organizations that have taken on environmental and water causes, and the same is true elsewhere. In a country like Japan, for example, when the entire Lake Biwa was close to atrophying and it had turned red because of all the algae growth in there, because of all the dumping that was happening by industries. It was a women's movement. It took 10 years until they took their case to the court and to their highest courts. And then the industry was made to pay to clean up that lake. And that lake then is now pristine, and it is a lake from where this whole idea of water stewardship has come from there, which is now so global. It has been espoused by the corporate sector, particularly by the corporate sector all over. So will a difference be made, and what are the things that we have to do? This actually leads into the first question that has already been asked by somebody in the audience, so maybe I'll take it up at that time. Okay, thank you. You're muted, Mohsen.
Okay, sorry. Now, thank you, Semi, for giving the answer. And then now I'll be, handing over to you for the next 30 minutes just to moderate the session. And I will be the one keep monitoring the question and answering in chat. The first question which I've shared with you, that has been asked by Labisha. So, Semi, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So the first question I have is related to what we've already talking about. So are individual characteristics such as tenacity and passion really enough for women to be able to enter the water sector and remain there? Or are there more structural issues that are the problem? Certainly the structural issues are the problem. We have to sort them out. But while we are changing them, we cannot say that we are going to wait for the next 100 years until those structural and legal issues are resolved. We have to act at all levels at the same time. This is what I always say, grassroots to policy. You work at your local level, but you also contribute to the global and the national agenda for change in water, whether it's policy, whether it's laws, whether it's implementation or projects, whether it's at the household. We will have to do those things together. So when we talk about the structural changes, that have to do with patriarchy and women's rights. So that is a common battle we have to have with women in other sectors, and we should not shy away from that. I always say that if you want to struggle in the water sector, you invariably have to be a member of the larger women's movement at global and other levels. Because as Sarwat says, you may have a very well-trained, let us say, a surveyor who's a woman, and she has to go out into the boondocks to survey. She can expect all kinds. At best, she would be catcalled and hassled. At worst, she could be raped if there are no bathrooms, if there's no security, because the dominant male mindset in our country and in our region, and in fact globally as well, what that says is that if a woman is out after certain hours, then she's inviting and asking for this trouble. I mean, we are in the 21st century, but this mindset of the dark ages still exists. It hasn't gone. And all the recent events that have happened in the last a few months, whether it is the motorway incident or some of the other incidents, and the kind of questioning that the victim blaming that happens. So that victim blaming is part of the problem why so many women who are already trained to work in the water sectors are afraid to venture. So all they look for are very safe jobs in the office or maybe inside a university, but they are afraid to exercise their training and their education to go into the corporate sector, to set up their own companies, or to be out, to go out of the house or of a very safe work environment. So why should the roads and rural areas not be safe for women? Why should cities not be safe for women? So that is a huge structural issue. So we have to, on the one hand, be part of movements and efforts to change the laws and change the way the legal system works, make it easier for women to access justice and to access law enforcement, etc. At the same time, we have to take some practical measures. I believe that quotas work, whether they are for sitting on conference panels, on committees, or for jobs. There needs to be quotas set for women. And until we do that, there have been very many successful examples where people have done the quotas sincerely. Okay, not with the view that all the support staff is women. So we say, great, we have 50% women and they're all the cleaners and the secretaries. Not that way, but to do it right across. And then we must understand that women's childbearing function is a normal function of being a woman. It's not a disease, it's not an illness. It should not be considered debilitating. So the environment at workplaces have to be created in such a way that women can bring their children to work, or or they have support. That should be there. Now, once these structural changes are in place, you will still need the tenacity, you will still need the passion. For a woman to prove herself at work, she has to do 4 times what the guy does in order to be, but that's a reality and women accept it. So both have to go hand in hand. So that was the first question. Let me see. Okay, here's another one. I'll read out the question and then I'll assign it to one of you. So the next question is, this is from Tayyaba. Why has it been seen as a stigma for a woman to visit the fields in villages and work in extension departments, who is actually an agricultural engineer? There are many irrigation companies that provide farmers efficient irrigation system, and while advertising job for area managers, they make sure only males must be hired. My point is why they don't understand that a woman after proper training can take up the job of a man in each kind of professional position. Okay, so agricultural engineering. So one of you is an agricultural engineer. Who's that? Could you, or somebody who has experience in agricultural engineering? Okay, no, okay, maybe.
I think we have a water engineering, but if you allow, I'd like to take up this question.
Sure. Go ahead, Selina.
Yeah,
Sure.
so we have seen this. This is a very important question. We have seen this again and again in rural areas where women are not appointed in the extension department, agriculture extension, not just water, but even any other field. And the excuse is transportation. Kaise jayengi? How will the woman go to the field? And no transportation is provided. Recently, the Punjab Agriculture Department has given motorcycles to agriculture extension workers, and it was a big quotation, and they got thousands of motorcycles that were distributed. So the thing is that policies have to be made within the realities and context of a country. So if we see that women are not using motorcycles, I mean, ideally, yes, they should use all transportation, but in practical terms, women don't use motorcycles. So the Agriculture Extension Department knows that, and they should, maybe have requisitioned half small Suzuki cars or Jeeps and half motorcycles. So that goes back to the policy issue that when governments and departments make policies, they should include a gender perspective in their policy making. So the gender aspect in our country is that women need transportation for field work. Everybody needs transportation for, even men need transportation for field work, any kind of field work. And women need, so why don't they then make arrangements for the transportation? And the excuse that women cannot go to the field because they, don't have transportation is a basically bad management. So I think that we need to push for the implementation of the principle. The principle is that women should be hired. Then the procedure should allow that policy to happen. So I think that this is an advocacy issue that we should all take up with at all levels. So for example, every time World Bank or IFAD or any other international agency takes signs an MOU with the government of Pakistan for a project, especially construction project, they should make a policy that women's washroom would be built. They should make a policy that women transportation will be arranged. That's the policy advocacy we can do with international organizations. The World Bank gives millions of dollars for construction projects, for buildings, for you name it. So if they have a gender aspect in their policy, then these things will take place. Similarly, in Islamabad, I have heard, I've not seen it, in Islamabad now the government is not approving any plan of a new house construction if it doesn't have a rainwater harvesting system and a rainwater harvesting tank. I've heard that this is the new policy. Now, you see, that is a good policy. Now, people will have to make rainwater harvesting tanks when they construct a new house. So similarly, we need to include gender issues at the policy level, at the budget level, to take care of these problems. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If I want to add on to that.
Yes, Sarwar, go ahead.
So yeah, thank you for this question. Actually, that is a very important and very practical question. All the women are maybe suffering in the same situation, because we need to be in the traditional role. And how can you dare to be a area manager somewhere which is a male dominant sector of work? So I would see it in a very patriarchal mindset terms as well. That is the lens I'm using right now. So it is kind of a dogma, a set of principles laid out for women to understand that this is not their part of sector of work they have to do. So as Sini said, and of course, through perpetuating these kind of actions and discouraging women to come into that, they are improving or they are supporting their own doctrine they want to inculcate into all of us. So as Simi said before, that the quota, like if you talk about the systematic or structural change, the quota really works. Even though there are like 30% quotas for some positions I'm not sure about. However, it still works, that it still gives us a chance to come up and be at that position and challenge the structural issues women face usually. And also, I have just written down that we, as again, I'm going back to Simi's, what she said, is like, she says that we have established, we women have already established now that we need to work twice as hard as men do to be at a position where we want to. So let's be ready for that, and let's face the challenge we have, and that is the truth. That is the reality we need to face.
Okay, thank you, Sarwar. So what's the really important takeaway from this discussion is that even though you have the policies in place, you may have the legal structure in place, the concomitant rules and regulations have to be there. Because what I've seen in many organizations that are either very obviously male dominated, or they may appear to be very open and very gender sensitive, but all the little rules and regulations are used by certain people to ensure that women don't get ahead. We have all faced that. Okay. And for that, yes, you need the mindset. Now, the question is, do you need to become like those guys who are acting behind the scenes all the time to undermine you, and you have to become like that? Or do you take it, take it heads on and challenge it? I think eventually we would have to take it heads on and challenge it. If you don't do that, the system won't change. Then we will just begin to maneuver like these guys do, and we are no better than them. But this is what I have seen. I have seen so many really good initiatives within organizations to mainstream women, just falter at the altar of these guys who are not even very high up in the organization. People in procurement, people in finance, people in admin, people in support services, just making it impossible for women to function. And they can together ruin some of the best educated and trained women somewhere on the higher echelons by not giving them the space to work. Okay. And the way to counter that eventually is going to have to be a concerted effort on the part of women to take them on and challenge them. And that will be perhaps difficult for everyone to do. That is why we need the sisterhood. And that is why we need strong women's networks. This is what my learning has been after 40 years working in women's rights and in water. That all the men will tell you that a woman's worst enemy is a woman. Don't you believe it? Okay. A woman's best friend is another woman. And if you see, even in our very beleaguered extended family system, just look at how it plays out. The Saas Bahu thing is done by the men. The men thrive on it. They love it. And they make sure that it happens. So we need to put that aside and we need to get over it. So this is my message. Get over all these traditional things that the men tell you is what you are and what women are. Don't believe them. Okay. Here's another very interesting question. How to turn these old described women work in the families, more especially men. I think what they're trying to say is that when women are told that their place is the home and the men say so as well. I think that's what Fozia means. Still, women are at risk, not only inside the households, but also in working environment. And men never have to bear, and men can't bear their success in any sector. Okay. So would any of you like to take it up? So basically, what I've understood from here is that on the one hand, women are told that they need to look after the family and be at home. But even there, if they are successful, they are not acknowledged. And if they try to be in other sectors or work sectors, the men of the family don't accept their success. So any one of you agrees with this or disagrees or would like to comment?
Yes, I agree with that. And as I have said earlier, that as like for women, sometimes our challenges are like more intense. We have to put extra efforts. I mean, whether it's our professional life or our home fronts. So we have to prove that we are like a very role model in houses as well. And we are very efficient worker. We are putting I've seen many of my colleagues that they are going out, they're like smoking and chit chatting, and the women, they are more scrutinized that if they are working, they are glued to the chairs or not. So that happens. I agree with that. So, and with this environment, how we are going to balance our lives between like at the home front and at the professional lives, this is really a great challenge. And this for this family support is it's really very important. If you don't have, if you come back to your home and you see that everybody expecting to do something for them, then it becomes sometimes quite frustrating. So that's one point. I mean, I never faced that, but those who face that, I witnessed them in my like family and other parts as well in our country. Many women, they are facing this thing, so they also need some peace of mind. I mean, when they come after the day work, they should get some rest, and they have some appreciation as well at the home level.
You see, women to prove themselves have to do everything. They have to be super women. So last century, part of last century and this century, women have killed themselves trying to be super women. Okay, but I think we need to let go. We can't be super women. The other thing we must understand that whenever we say this is how society directs the way we think and talk, we always talk about getting support from home. But tell me, which man has been able to establish himself without support from home? And the man has far more support than the women do. Okay, so we should not imagine that somehow a great favor is being done for us by having this support at home. Every guy has massive support from home. So
Yeah.
we need to move out of that a little, and when the guys start talking about it, tell them, hey, stop. Okay, we have to make choices just as you do. So every day the woman has to decide, okay, I've got this much work to do today, this is what I can do at home, and stop trying to be superwoman with no sleep. Okay, so this is
One
one thing.
more, thing,
Yes,
it's this
yes.
abuse is not only from men. Like I remember my nani amma, when my mamu used to come back from home, she used to say, "Arey nanna aa gaya, isko bithao, chai pilao." And my khala, like she returned from some workshop or something else, udi udi phirti hai, miyan ka khayal hi nahi hai. So
There you go. This is exactly correct. That the way the language develops and the way it directs the mode of thinking and the way we express, and that was so well done, Arjuman. Exactly. These are exactly the kinds of sentences and words that makes it hard for women to understand that they have choices too. They can make those choices, and they can do it without asking for support of family.
Yeah.
They should just go ahead and do it. And
Yeah,
then the
and I just,
families understand. Yes, Samina.
yeah, I want to add that, instead of waiting for appreciation by others, we should appreciate each other. So women should appreciate other women professionals. They should give them shabashi. They should tell them, oh, you did a great job. That really means a lot. If other women support you, encourage you, motivate you, men are also welcome to do that, Mohsin Saab. But I'm just saying that, we should also develop this culture of appreciating each other more.
Great. And the women water networks and this sisterhood that I'm talking about, that provides a platform where we can sit together and talk about our difficulties and how we can help each other, support each other. All those things are possible. And they have been happening. Men have always known it and they have always done it. But women, or, I'll tell you, even for me, when I got married, I lost sight of many of my friends. And I used to just meet my husband's friends and their spouses, because men never give up their friends and women do, because they feel that once they move into their husbands' homes, that is something that they have to do. So it's not as if men are deliberately setting out to do that. That's how society is set up. And so we have to challenge that society. So in order to establish ourselves in the water sector, a lot of overall issues of women in society have to be tackled, and that has to be understood. Okay, here's another question. So all of you are successful women professionals. Often women leave their careers due to family responsibilities. How did you manage work-life balance? I think we already answered that, but if someone would like to take it up, any one of you? Sophia?
I just want to add a joke to it, because when I used to leave early, means like at on time from work, going back home, people look at you, say men look at you like, oh, she's going early and all that, and sometimes like when you are friends, but then they also tell you that you're leaving early. So I used to remark that I've got no wife at home, so I have to leave early.
To go and cook my own food. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Wonderful.
I've got no wife at home. So
Yeah. That's really good. Okay. So here's another question. This is for me. Referring to what I said about there being no will at political and policy level to include women at decision-making forum. So what needs to be done and what can we do to change the situation? Okay, this is from Khadija. Yeah, Khadija already talked about some of those things. You just barge in. We have to barge in. So many of us have just barge in, refuse to leave. There's nothing they can do about it. And then eventually, once they see that you mean business, then they might, but it will still be a battle. As I've said, I was the main author of the Citizens Water Policy, and we worked with the government throughout, and still they don't think that they can invite me to be part of the group of 8 men who wrote the national water policy. And the same thing in Punjab. When they want help, they call. When they want something written down, they will call. When they want somebody to produce a PowerPoint for them, which they have to present to another country, then they will call. So, we have to say no. Yes, do some of that. We can't say no all the time. But, it's going to be back and forth and back and forth. And what we do to change the situation, we keep up. We just keep at it. There is no other way to go. And be unpopular. It's okay to be unpopular. It's all right. Okay. We shouldn't mind that. Okay, let me see if there's another question. Okay, there's a question from Muhammad Iqbal. Women are the secret weapon for better water management. Meanwhile, we are in a state of war in terms of water security and availability. We don't have time to do experiment with inexperienced people in this sector. What do you think is the real role of women in this sector? Well, would any one of you like to take it up? Then I'll take it up too. No? Okay. Now, Mr. Iqbal, if you just excuse me, this is a very typical question that men put forward. Okay. Why aren't men asked what is their role in the water sector? Nobody ever asked them that. Okay. And as you say, women are the secret weapon for better water management. I don't know what you mean by that. But if you are referring to my presentation, what I was saying is that in order to save the world, which is heading towards disaster, and it's probably already there, as you know, the tropical zone will be unlivable maybe 4 or 5 decades from now. Given that situation, and if we at least want to salvage anything, the kind of boring, repetitive work that will have to be done in the water sector to ensure that we can combat the impacts of climate change and that we can save environment, that kind of very boring, repetitive work that would have to be done every day and every hour with equity, with discipline, with attention to detail, at the home level, at the smallest level. Those are the kinds of things that women are already trained to do. That is what I was saying. Because through centuries, they have had to do that kind of work, the boring, repetitive work. But now is the time to do that and take that to scale. This is what we have to do, save water every single day. Okay? That's not something you can talk about at a conference once and forget about it. So what I was saying is that women, fortunately or unfortunately, because of their subservient role and the kind of responsibilities they have borne at home and elsewhere, this is now the time for them to take over because they know how to do it. So that is something, I think that, hope that answers your question. And so in terms of the secret weapon, maybe that's how you could look at it. And yes, water security, please understand that the term water security, the way we women in the water sector understand it, we are talking about water security every day. That is drinking water, domestic water, water for survival, water for the environment. That is what we think about when we think of water security. When men think about water security, they think about impending wars with India. Okay. So the same terminology is understood in a very different way. And that is, we want to see a feminization of the water sector. And we want to see more feminine ways of looking at solutions to water. So when we hear water security, we say, hey, I have to now ensure that that little water that I was stretching, I have to stretch it even more. I have to ensure there is no wastage. How can I, use less water to wash clothes? How can I recycle water at home? This is what women think. Men think big. There's nothing wrong with thinking big, but thinking big, thinking medium, and thinking small should all come together. Okay, and that is how we will meet the challenge. So I think the more feminine ways of thinking we need to look at. Yes, somebody would like to add something?
Yeah,
Selena, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that, I had an organization and it took me a year to convince my drivers there's no need to wash the car, because they wash the car and they waste so much water. And it took me a while to explain to them what a useless activity that is, And if you can go and take your car to a station and get it cleaned for 200 rupees, why would you want to? And one of my drivers, an elderly driver, he said to me, लेकिन मैडम ये हमारा घोड़ा है ना, इससे हमें रोजगार मिलता है, इसका ख्याल रखना हमारा फर्ज है, तो हम इसको नहलाते हैं जैसे पुराने जमाने में लोग अपने घोड़े को नहलाते थे. So, you know, but you are absolutely right. These are the small things, you know, washing your car at home, having a garden with grass that needs a lot of water. This artificial garden with grass wastes so much water. These big golf courses pull the water of poor people. Look at the amount of water that goes into maintaining golf courses and big gardens. So I think that these are the small things that we need to bring back to our life. You know, my model for water conservation was my dadi in a village. So every summer when we went to the village to spend the summer, I saw how she saved everything. You know, she will boil the water in which she wash vegetables, she wouldn't throw. She'll give it to the plants. The water in which she boiled something, she wouldn't throw. She you know, saved each and every drop of water. So I think that now we may have to look back. What were some of our traditional ways that were good, that were useful? We need to bring them back. And what are some of the, you know, capitalist commercial habits that we have gotten into that is destroying our planet? You know, bottled water, selling of water, and all these things. We need to look back and promote, and small things make a difference. You know, just by keeping a bottle in your bag and refilling it, you will be saving so much. So we need to, like you said, save water every day. Thank you.
Okay, Samina, thank you so much. Well, we've run out of time, and I think there are no more questions. So if I could just have half a minute, there is part of this question we haven't answered from Mr. Iqbal, and he's saying we don't have time to experiment with inexperienced people in the sector. I think what we have to understand is nobody here is promoting that we bring inexperienced men or women into this sector. We are talking about men and women who are already trained. And we believe that we, who are geographers, hydrologists, business people, academics, we have a right to opinion, and that opinion should be valued. If some of us feel that this is not the right time to build more infrastructure, and that we need to fix what we already have, and we have proved that by doing so, we will have more water in the system than by just making new infrastructure, then everyone has to listen to us. That is the message we want to give. We need to do the small changes at home and at different levels, but we also have a voice at the highest policy level. And what we say is valuable and should be heard. Okay, thank you so much. So Mohsin, back to you.
Thanks, Amy, for really interactive discussion, and thanks all the panelists. So now just considering the time, we are over for 4 minutes. I will be just taking a one last minute. Thank you everyone for joining today. There are three take-home messages for me. One is about that for each of the panel, we could do small steps. When we are organizing any panel, so we need to have really good balance of the gender. And IMI as a Research for Development organization, we are already part of the panel pledge. For CGIR, the Jesse initiative, where we will not be participating any of the forum where there is a male dominant activities are there. And again, I will be saying that's really good step in making sure that in Pakistan, the women aspects are highlighted in water, agriculture, and environmental sector. Second is we need to work collectively, raising the awareness and having a bit more inclusivity. That will be the way of changing a paradigm shift into the society in the way of thinking, and how we could involve the societies, the people from the men and women based on their abilities, based on their qualification, based on their experience, not based on their gender. And third important thing is it's a long journey. So what we need to do we need to work together, And then we need to have that kind of dialogue. Today I learned a lot, some of the new things which I know, okay, that Sophia has been working in the area, Sarvat is working on the area, and then what are the challenges facing there? So as a collectively, as a society, we could work together, and working together, the law which are there, but how we could provide an enabling environment in the institute where we are working, in the field, wherever we are working, and we could also influence that the society, like Arjun mentioned, the impactful wherever we are doing it. Thank you everyone, and thanks everyone for spending 1.5 hours with us.
Thank you
It's a
so
pleasure.
much for organizing. Thank you.
Thank you. It was really
Bye-bye.
great.
Thank you,
Thanks
Simi.
a lot.
Thank you, Mohsin Saab.
Thank you.
Khuda Hafiz.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Sarwat.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz, Dr. Arjuman.